Wednesday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. We're going to take a special edition the next couple of days where we take a film breakdown video analysis of different position groups as the Browns get ready for the draft. Free agency winding down, draft really getting into focus, and we're going to be joined by Lance Reisland from the plain dealer cleveland.com to do that. We begin with the Browns' biggest need. No offense to Kenny Pickett. It's still the quarterbacks, and we're going to take a look at the quarterbacks at the high end in this draft. Our first positional breakdown, video breakdown film analysis. We're going to start with the quarterbacks because everybody wants to know, and Lance, we're going to look at 5 of them. The top 2, which are consensus, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and then a lot of guys that some Browns fans have been asking about, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard. Let's start with Shedeur Sanders. Take us through what you see, and there's a strength and things that they need to work on. So when you see Sanders, what have you seen?
Well, first of all, you're going to see right here, you're going to see the linebacker drop. This is simple high-low. You're going to see at the NFL level. He squats on the under route. Then you're going to see the dig. That's a classic high-low from Pat Shurmur. So you get a lot of NFL-type concepts, high-lows, smash, under routes, things like that, things that you're going to see at the NFL level. Now, this is an issue that he has. Is you're going to see great protection. He starts to drift. And as me and my dad used to call them, they're drifters, right? So instead of buying time in the pocket, they buy time by drifting. Now, a lot of times that happens because you're so used to getting hit. And he has been absolutely killed in the last 2 years with that Colorado offensive line. Now, couple things that, I tell everybody about Shedeur Sanders. One is you have to disconnect from his father. I understand that as, if he doesn't let him play here, all that. But in terms of his skill breakdown and his film, the first thing you see is how tough Shedeur Sanders is. He never, ever loses his fundamentals when he's getting hit. Next thing you're going to notice is that his ability to move within the pocket and within structure is exactly what Kevin Stefanski likes. He's very good at side-to-side movement. He's very good at using his feet when necessary, but he's looking to throw the football, go through his progressions, all the things that Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees love.
Yeah, and to your point with going through your progressions, moving in the pocket, Lance, that's usually the sign of a guy that's going to have some success at the NFL. If you were going to look for an important skill, that would be it.
Well, and he's got a lot of things. One of the things he anticipates very well. He's got tremendous accuracy. He completed over 70% of his passes in college. Again, being under tremendous duress. And the thing you like about him when you watch him on film is you're going to see him scramble, reset his feet, throw the ball, and take a big hit. And then he gets right back up. So the stuff he does off the field, things like that, you never hear about his work ethic. He seems like he's an extremely hard worker. I base my evaluations on what I see on film. Shedeur Sanders can make all the throws. He's very cognitively pre-snap smart. I think he's really, really tough. He's got the size to last in the NFL. I think he's a really good pick. If the Browns take him at 2, we'll see. But I think he's the best fit of the 2 top guys.
All right, the second guy that you're talking about as well is Cam Ward. And again, 6'2", 223, so decent size. What do you see when you look at him? Again, we're going to have a strength and something that he needs to work on. So take us through that.
Well, the strength is you're going to see his ability to throw off route. So you can see him off his back foot, throw this crossing route. Now, at college, he can get away with that, but he can make all the throws from the different angles. You're going to see a sidearm, little RPO sidearm throw with no legs involved. Things you have to do in the NFL. Now, this is what he does. He relies on his arms too much. You're going to see, he's got to stay right there in the pocket. He does not need to leave the pocket. By leaving the pocket and then throwing across his body, he throws an interception. And what you get from Cam Ward is what I saw a lot on film from Deshaun Watson in 2020 when I watched the Texas film. He's extremely good off script. He's extremely good when he has to improvise. I think Cam Ward actually has a higher ceiling than Shedeur Sanders with some of his ability to make throws on the run. However, that does not work very well with Kevin Stefanski. So in terms of, I think they're 1A and 1B, but now you guys start thinking about scheme fit. Shedeur Sanders fits the scheme, his ability to throw from within inside the pocket and use his feet. Cam Ward can do all these things as well, but Cam Ward likes to improvise and make things happen. And he does that very, very well, but he also has a tendency to turn the ball over at times, things that have killed the Browns. But when you watch the film, there's some throws that just completely awe you with Cam Ward. But I'll stick with Shedeur Sanders just because of his consistency, his accuracy, and his ability to throw on structure from the pocket.
All right, we're going to take a look at a couple of guys that won't be in those first two in all likelihood. The first one we're going to look at, Jackson Dart from Mississippi, 6'2", 225. What do you see when you look at Jackson Dart?
Kind of a wild card, right? So you're going to see this great. You're going to see right here, he throws a great. He's going to get just a levels concept. And what do you like about Jackson Dart? His ability to throw that chunk play from 15 to 25 yards. This is what he does poorly, right? This is just step to the side and throw the ball to the check down. So you get the good here with the really good fundamentals, driving the ball off his back foot to that second level chunk, which you get a lot in the NFL. And then on what he does poorly, sometimes he doesn't see everything. So if he just steps to his side there, resets his feet and throws, that would be my one fault against him, is his ability to continue to look downfield sometimes when under pressure. Jackson Dart also plays for Lane Kiffin. He kind of gives you that wild man vibe, right? His hair, the way he acts, the way he runs. He's fearless. He can make all the throws. For me, this is the guy who could be an all-pro or a bust. I don't think he'll just be average. He'll either be not very good or he's going to be just outstanding. He's just one of those guys. He makes a lot of plays. He's a football player. Like I said, he plays for Lane Kiffin, and he kind of has that Lane Kiffin attitude where he's just going to kind of be a gunslinger and go after it.
The other thing about him, a lot of similarities to Bo Nix last year in that he has played a lot of college football as well. He started a lot of games, and there's something to that. I don't know how much, but there is something to that.
Well, I'm a big Bill Parcells fan, and as you watch these young guys come out, one of the things you get is how many games have they played in college, and I think that's huge. And I never really did. You know, some other positions you have to take size, speed, all that into account. The quarterback position has that it factor, and whatever that is, the Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, these guys who have the it factor, that's because of the plays they make when the plays are presented to them. And, you know, a lot of times that happens with just reps you get in college. So these guys who have tons and tons of reps, and I got some guys who are on my board as well who played a ton of college football. I think it's important that you see as much as you can before you get to the NFL.
All right, so the next one that we're going to take a look at is a guy that is tied to Tommy Rees, new offensive coordinator for the Browns, because he played for him at Alabama, Jalen Milroe. What have you seen with Milroe?
Well, for me, he's very much like Jaden Daniels, obviously not as refined in the pocket as Jaden Daniels. One thing he doesn't get enough credit for is his ability to process information and throw from the pocket. This is what he does poorly. You're going to see him throw off his back foot, not drive the ball, and kind of throw an interception. He didn't play very well in the bowl game. Now, with Jaden Milroe, obviously he's got great feet. He does process very well, but he loses his fundamentals with inside the pocket. As where Jaden Daniels, I think, could play in the pocket all game, I don't think Jaden Milroe can. And I still think there's a place for him in the NFL in the right scheme. That scheme is not the Browns, in my opinion. However, he does a lot of things well. He's not all legs. You know, you kind of go back to my comp on him, once again, obviously I'm talking coming out of college, not for what they've done in pros, is like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. The ability to use their feet, people forget how good they are in the pocket and the decision-making they can make. Jaden Milroe makes a lot of good decisions. He's got some fundamental mechanics and some processing stuff to go through. His feet are so good that when he gets in trouble, he uses them. In the NFL, he'll have to get to that second, third progression a little bit more. Things I think he can do.
And keep in mind, both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were kind of work in progresses in their first year because they didn't throw the ball with a lot of accuracy. Boy, did they change that, and they got that right pretty quickly. All right, last one that we're going to talk about relative to the quarterbacks, a guy that we continually get a lot of voicemails about on the show, Will Howard from Ohio State. Big kid, 6'4", 225 pounds.
We're going to see the first one is this is just, you're going to throw a fade route here. Got man coverage with Jeremiah. This is against Tennessee in round one. Just throws a great ball. So he throws a really good deep ball, and he throws a really good short ball. Now, this is a poor decision, but sometimes you get great players, you make great plays. You're going to see the corner squat. He should work to the tight end right there. Instead, he throws it up to Jeremiah Smith, which you get away with in college when you have a guy like Jeremiah Smith. He will not get away with that in the NFL. Now, if you ask me, I was asked today what I thought of Will Howard. Here's what I have not seen enough of Will Howard make the chunk plays yet. I will go back and I will watch a lot of his Kansas State film. He's a tremendous competitor. He can use his feet very well. He can make all the throws. I worry about him being able to drive the football into tight windows at the NFL hash to hash. The other thing I worry about is that it's hard to evaluate his Ohio State film because literally all 5 of his skill guys are going to be day 1, early day 2 picks, and that sometimes kind of makes your evaluation a little bit biased. Like this play, for example, if you break this down, this is a great throw. This is a poor decision, and sometimes poor decisions work out when you have great players. Everybody's great in the NFL, so I don't know. I think he made himself a lot of money in the playoffs. Just still need to see him drive the ball in that 15 to 25 yard range, because at Ohio State it was a lot of deep balls and a lot of quick screens. Yeah. I do think he can do it, but I do think he's a work in progress.
Yeah, and to your point, he did it against the elite competition throughout the college football playoffs. So there is something about that. But I went from late day 3, maybe an undrafted free agent. I think he moved up a couple of rounds simply because he played against elite competition and played pretty well.
Well, yeah, and they beat 8 of the 10 teams this year. Ohio State really earned it, right? So they lost Oregon, they got all that. They lost Ohio State, which is a rival game. And any of us who have ever been part of a rivalry game, high school, college, or pro, those go either way sometimes. So, but he did. He played really, really well against great competition. He makes good decisions at times. It's hard. I've been in a situation. If you have Jeremiah Smith, you get him the ball. It'll be interesting. He's going to be a guy who will jump up the boards if he throws the ball well at the combine, at pro day, things like that. If he throws those dig routes and those deep curls and those intermittent chunk routes well, he will skyrocket up a lot of people's boards.
We're not nearly done with the quarterbacks just yet. A quick timeout. We'll take a look at some of the guys that will be available later in this draft at the quarterback position. Special edition of Sports for CLE, looking at draft prospects. Stay with us.
We're out here busting common lottery myths by talking to real players just like you. And you, sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Tom Burrell from Lexington, Ohio.
I'm playing Powerball. I use AutoPick when I pick my numbers. Do I have better, worse, or the same odds?
Same odds.
I'd say better.
I still think worse.
Same odds.
He's got it. It's the same. AutoPick, numbers you pick, same odds. Either way. He has it. He has it, folks. He already knows. You can learn more by going to ohiolottery.com/knowtheodds.
We continue with our special edition of Sports for CLE, breaking down some of the different prospects available in this draft. With the trade of DTR, the Browns may take 2 quarterbacks in this draft. Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, takes a look at some guys that the Browns might be looking at a little later. So, Lance, these are late day 2, day 3 guys that you think could end up developing and being not necessarily for the Browns, but somebody in the NFL. And the first one is a guy that, in talking to you, I know you like, Dillon Gabriel. Saw him in the college football playoff with Oregon. 6 foot, 202 pounds. What do you see when you look at Gabriel?
Well, first of all, he makes a lot of really good throws. So here's going to read a man bracket coverage. He's going to see his receiver even. Obviously, the old term, you're even, we're leaving. He does a really good job of anticipation, understanding where it's going to be. Now, the one thing he struggles with is when he gets off rhythm, right? So he's got to reset his feet. Sometimes his feet will be wrong, and he doesn't step into his throws. Now, if you're talking about a guy who played for 3 high-level schools and threw for 18,000 yards and 155 touchdowns, so the production is there. Threw the ball very well at Senior Bowl. Be interested to see how, obviously, his pro day, some things are going to be very important for Dillon Gabriel. I really, really like this guy. In fact, this guy's number 3 on my board, and I try to just keep it to what I see on film. And obviously, there's some hesitation because of his height, and that's right. That's a fair assessment. But this guy makes all the throws, and I really like the throws he makes within that 15 to 25 yard, those chunk plays that you need a lot of in the NFL. I thought he played really good against high-level competition. When they beat the Buckeyes early in the season, I thought he played really well. And then, as you and I were talking about, I thought he played really well after a rough start in the playoff game. So just a guy I'm really high on. I love his mechanics. I love his moxie. I think he's a guy who's going to be a really good pro, either as a starter or as a backup, but he's going to be a very high contributor to some NFL team.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, played a lot of college football, was at Oklahoma before Oregon, so a guy who has seen plenty of coverages at the college level. Number 2's got it's intriguing. Curtis Rourke, 6'5", 231. Played at Indiana, led them to the college football playoff, and we found out after the fact, played with a torn ACL most, if not all, of the season.
Well, I've watched a lot of film on him from both. So you're going to see here, he's got man coverage on a rail route from the back. He's got to look that safety off right there. So he does a really good job of looking that safety in the middle, then delivering a really catchable football. Now, he played really well to OU, and then this year this is what he struggles with sometimes. Figuring out where the blitz is coming from and making sure he extends time in the pocket. So again, going back to this first throw, really impressed with his ability to diagnose man coverage here and knowing who he has to look off because he knows their outside receiver is going to pick that running back's guy. Now we go back to here, you're going to see a 3-over-2 blitz from the Buckeyes here. So they're going to bring that slot nickel back. He's got to do a better job of understanding where his hots are and getting rid of the football. In Kurt Segnetti's offense, a lot of rhythm, a lot of pace. He's got to do a good job of continuously getting to that second, third progression. But I like this guy at OU. He runs the ball better. Obviously, he had a knee injury, like you said. He's got really good feet within the pocket. He's big. He kind of fits that mold of what you want an NFL quarterback to look like, right? The Peyton Manning, 6'5", 230, can take a hit, processes information very well. This is more of a fit for the Browns. Him and Gabriel are very good on structure within the pocket. Those are things Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees like. So he's not a guy who's going to improvise much, but he's a guy who can play well within structure and can make all the throws. I think this guy's going to be a good pro.
Yeah, the other thing with him, because of the injury, he can't do as much as the NFL teams would like relative to the leading up to the combine, at the combine. So it'll be interesting to see. A lot of it's going to be based on evaluation from when he played. The third guy is an interesting one in Quinn Ewers, 6'2", 210 pounds. What did you see from Ewers?
Well, here's the guy who makes a lot of plays. So, again, he's going to get man coverage here against the Buckeyes, and he's going to take his running back and a linebacker. He did this twice against the Buckeyes. So this is a really Quinn Ewers is really, really intriguing to me. There is very few guys. I try to talk to as many people, smarter people than me in terms of breaking down film. And same kind of thing with Quinn Ewers. People have him as a first or second round grade and then as a free agent grade. And the reason why is because, first of all, he makes throws like this where he's going to read the back and he's going to make a very catchable ball. But the one thing he doesn't get, sometimes he doesn't have really good pocket awareness and he doesn't step into his throw, and sometimes he doesn't drive the football. So the ball doesn't come out. So he doesn't protect the ball very well sometimes in the pocket, and then sometimes he doesn't drive it when he needs to. He's a guy that needs to use his whole body with the throw, which is fine. A lot of quarterbacks do, but he can't get back on his back foot because then he doesn't have enough whip in that arm. But once again, he's a guy who highly recruited out of high school, went to Ohio State, obviously, couldn't beat out C.J. Stroud, went to Texas. Sarkisian does a great job with NFL concepts, highs and lows, so he can make all these throws he understands defense. He's just got to protect the ball better, and he's got to play with a better sense of urgency within the pocket to be able to step into those throws and make those 15 to 20-yard throws that I think Dillon Gabriel does very well.
Yeah, with Ewers, there's a lot of inconsistency. The good plays were really good, and the bad plays were really bad, and that doesn't cut it when you're an NFL quarterback.
Well, a lot of that, very, very much like Jackson Dart without the turnovers. Jackson Dart is him and Ewers are the two hottest guys. Very few guys get as hot as those two, but very few guys get as cold as those two. And like you said, you can't have that in the NFL. You got to have consistency. You got to take those checkdowns. You can't always look for the home run. Quinn Ewers is an interesting guy for day 3. I believe he'll be a day 3 guy, but a guy, again, a lot of talent. Understands defenses, and if you get with the right guy to get his fundamentals down, he's a guy who could be has a pretty good upside. The
other, our fourth guy of the 4 that we're going to look at later round picks of quarterbacks, Kyle McCord, 6'3", 220 pounds. What did you see with McCord?
Well, there's 2 things. First of all, McCord, this is against when he's at Ohio State last year against Notre Dame. He can make all the throws now. He's a 6'3", 220-pound guy. And like the rest of the guys, very experienced. Now, here's what he does poorly. He locks on. So you're going to see Pittsburgh does a nice job of showing cover 2, but actually being in a 2-man where they're going to have 2 safeties and then man coverage underneath. Again, you're going to see here at 6'3", 230, he can really throw the ball from the pocket. He's not much of a guy who improvises. He's not much of a guy who's going to throw off schedule or throw from different arm angles. but he is a guy who can make all the throws. And you see there, he had a bunch of picks against Pitt, and what he does is he locks in. And that usually means he's processing what he sees, and then when the defense changes, he's not doing a great job of after the snap. However, when you watch this guy this year at Syracuse, I watched a bunch of throws in the last couple of days. He plays really well and makes a lot of NFL throws, the outs, the digs, the deep bang eights where over the middle of the field. Those NFL throws off of deep drops, a lot of what Kevin Stefanski likes. So this is a guy who I think can be very good. All four of these guys have a lot of experience and played a lot of college football. And you can see with Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, guys who have had some success, especially Jaden Daniels. That experience is important when you get to the NFL. That's the old Bill Parcells model. You got to play some college football to be good in the NFL, and I agree with that.
Yeah, the concern obviously is with the processing, because that's a key. You have to be able to process, you have to be able to make decisions, you have to be able to do it quickly. And that was when McCord struggled, as you pointed out, those were the things he struggled with.
Well, yeah, when you watch him on film, the thing I see is that, like, on that particular play, if he thinks it's cover two, that's a really good thought process, because the corner to that bottom side drops, and then he feels like he's going to be able to work off that linebacker. And he would be if he doesn't lock in. So if he just keeps his eyes down the middle of the field, we always talk about keeping your eyes down the middle of the field so those guys can't anticipate where you're going. I just think he's got to learn to use his eyes to manipulate. He's got to understand that in the NFL, you're going to get a lot of post-snap stuff that's different than pre-snap. Those are things you can learn, though. Can't teach arm strength. He can make all the throws. He's got pretty big hands. He steps into his throws. He's a guy who's got some weight on him, so he can take the beating that he'll get at the NFL level. I don't know. I just think he's a guy. When I look at my chart, he's a guy that is kind of creeping up more and more because of what you watch on film.
So we know that the Browns are likely to remake their entire quarterback room. Could you see them taking a guy early and then a guy they have so many picks, 6th, 7th round, or if one of these guys, that has played a lot of college football doesn't get drafted as an undrafted free agent, where you're bringing in two rookies essentially that have a lot of experience?
Well, there's two things that I always think about with a quarterback. First of all of us there's a lot of guys out there who are smarter than me when breaking down film, and me included. You just don't know in the NFL. One of the things about the quarterback position compared to any other position is you just don't know. That it factor, that ability to play in front of the NFL crowds against NFL-like type defenses with the speed. You just don't know which guys have the it factor. You don't know what their practice habits are. You don't know how they take care of their bodies as they become grown men. How do they handle getting money? That all ties into it at the NFL. And there's no other position besides quarterback. If you look at the position especially since 2011, it's a crapshoot from first round to the 7th round. So I think you got to take guys that you think you can fit in your system, guys that you think that their weaknesses are things that you can improve. You can't really improve arm strength. You can't improve certain things, but you can improve the ability to process. You can improve the ability to make certain throws. You can't improve arm talent. You can't improve, if you can't see it and things like that. So I don't know if they'll take two, but I know there will be a guy that's taken higher that won't be successful, and there will be a guy taken in the later rounds who will be successful because he has that it factor. And he gets in the right system with the right coaches and makes good decisions about off the field, how he trains, how he takes care of his body, what he does. There'll always be a guy. Quarterback position is a crapshoot. And unfortunately, the Browns are in a position where they got to find a guy who can win right now. I don't know if that's in the draft, but we'll figure out here coming very soon.
We are just getting started on this special edition of Sports for CLE. We stay on the offensive side of the ball, taking a look at some playmakers. Stay with us on Sports for CLE.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue with this special edition of Sports for CLE, taking a look at different positional groups, film breakdown, video analysis with Lance Reisland. Browns are in need of some playmakers, Lance. We continue to talk about that all the time. We turn our attention to some of the guys that threaten the defense when they have the ball in their hand. Lance, today, film analysis, video breakdown, top 5 running backs, and it's a really deep and interesting class. And I think we both agree the Browns need some running back help.
Well, it's interesting because the Browns are now, with Kevin Stefanski being back and having the keys to the car here, per se, they're going to need some depth at running back, especially if they're going to run the ball and get back to that power run game. I know they're going to need some offensive linemen, they're going to need some other things, but the offensive line is going to play better because they're going to go back to what they do really well and the reason they were drafted and the reason they were really good in Stefanski's offense. But they got to find some help. They got to get some depth. They don't know what's going on with their tailback situation moving forward and the depth and the injury, et cetera. So they're going to have to add some depth there. This is a really deep draft at running back.
And so the first one that we're going to take a look at, and I know you like him a lot, Travion Henderson, Ohio State. So Buckeye fans recognize the name, and the more you hear NFL scouting people talk about this guy, the more they like him.
Well, Henderson's my number one guy. So you're going to see here, this is the touchdown against Texas. What he does is he's extremely patient. So each of these guys kind of have a tell what they're really, really good at. He is so explosive. So he's very patient. He understands defenses. He's really good in the pass game. He pass protects very well. He had some injury issues, but when you watch him on film, he is so good in the big games. Over and over and over, he makes big runs, explosive plays. He never gets caught. He's my number one guy on the board simply because of his versatility. He doesn't take a lot of hits, and I think that's important at the NFL level because of the size of those guys. You only have so much tread on those tires. Obviously having some injuries, being with Junkins, he hasn't, had a lot of tread. He's been able to rest a little bit. That's going to help him as his NFL career starts. Really, really high on him. He's on number one on my board by a lot. I think he's going to be an outstanding pro. And
he could be a guy that ends up second, third round, early third round. So it'll be interesting to see. The one thing that, as more and more people look at him, his blitz pickup is what a lot of guys comment on, and how good it is, makes him a 3-down back in the NFL.
Well, yeah, what he does, people always talk about these guys will stick their nose in there. These guys at these major college places, they'll stick their nose. It's understanding who's coming. Are you picking up a backer? Are you picking up an end? That's the key in all these different pass protections is you have different responsibilities based on the front, based on who's coming. Is a strong safety? Are you going to be hot? Sometimes you're not blocking that guy, and you got to get out, so make yourself available for the quarterback. He understands that all well. And then he obviously when he has to block, he's very, very tough. He's a very complete back. And I agree with you. That pass protection is huge at the NFL level.
So the second guy we're going to talk about, Ashton Jeanty. A lot of people think he could end up going mid-first round. I've seen some comps to LaDainian Tomlinson written by NFL.com, guys. What do you like about him? What do you see with Jeanty?
Well, Jeanty could be the best running back in the league. So you're going to see here, his contact balance is my favorite thing. He broke a ton of tackles at Boise State, played really big. He is an absolute freak, strength, balance. Like I said, each guy kind of has a thing for me. For me, it's contact balance. His ability to make jump cuts, stay vertical, have great speed when he's running the ball. He's outstanding, and he is the only thing, the reason I have Henderson above him is just a simple fact. He almost runs too violent. People say, how can you be too violent at the NFL level? Well, those are a lot of hits. He's going to take a lot of hits at the NFL level, and it's a lot different getting hit on Sundays than it is on Saturdays. So he'll have to learn to kind of avoid a little bit of contact. Will not be surprised if he's the best running back coming in this draft. He's outstanding. All the recognition he gets is very well deserved. His contact balance is as good as any I've seen in the last couple of years.
5'9", 215 pounds is what Ashton Jeanty from Boise State is listed at. Third one is another Big Ten guy that I know a lot of people like, Caleb Johnson, a little bit bigger, 6 foot, 225 pounds.
Well, the first thing you're going to see here is it's a zone play. So Iowa's known for their zone. Obviously, Kevin Stefanski is going to go back to that wide zone counter. A couple things you really like about Caleb Johnson. First of all, he's downhill. So when you talk about what his number one trait is, he's downhill both in the run game, zone run game, and in the gap scheme. He's a guy who's not going to get many negative yards. Now, I don't think, as compared to Jeanty and Henderson, he'll be a home run hitter, but he's a guy that I love that gets you to where you want as an offensive coordinator. He'll get you to 2nd and 4 consistently. He's a big guy. He's thick. He's got a very strong lower body. Again, all the measurables, these top 5, 10 guys, they all have them. But if you look at what I really like about him is he gets vertical quick. There's not a lot of wasted movement, and he's going to move those sticks and get you positive yards. 2nd and 4 is a big difference in 2nd and 8, and this is what I think Caleb Johnson gives you.
And again, the bigger body, 225. So again, physical running back. This guy, the next guy we're talking about from Kansas, Devin Neal, is a guy that you look at some mock drafts, have the Browns looking at him 3rd, 4th round. What do you see with Neal that you like?
Well, I'm a lot higher in Neal than most, and what I really like about him is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Again, he's not a great pass protector, but he's really good. He can be a really good 3rd down back. I also think he's physical enough to be a all 3 down back if necessary. But he's really good in space. Again, all the measurables. He can contact bounce, short area burst. He changes direction very well. But what I really like is his ability to catch the football. He's one of the better screen runners in the draft. Now, I'm a lot higher on him than some, but I think he's a really good football player. I got a chance to watch him a couple times this year, so I'm a little bit biased, but he is a physical guy. He's just a really good football player. He's one of the guys that goes past the measurables. He's a guy who's going to be very productive on Sundays, both in the run and the pass game.
All right, the 5th and final running back that we will look at, Omarion Hampton, North Carolina, 6 foot, again, a little bit bigger, 220 pounds. What do you see with Hampton?
Well, he's another guy, very well-rounded, very good. You're going to see him right here. He puts that foot in the ground. You're going to see as this play goes over and over, you're going to see it around the 30-yard line. He's going to put that foot in the ground, which is very big on zone run scheme. So you're going to see that right foot go in the ground. That's huge at the NFL level. There can't be a lot of wasted movement at the NFL level. You have to see the hole, and you have to explode through it. And what I like about him, very comparable to me to Caleb Johnson. He gets downhill very quick. He's good in both the zone and the gap schemes. He catches the ball very well. Being a little bit bigger body, a little thicker in the lower half. He's very good in pass protection. He's been very well coached at North Carolina. This is a guy that has a ton of upside. A lot of people have him 1, 2, or 3. I think these top 5 guys, in fact, I think the top 20 guys are all going to have a chance to be successful NFL guys. This is a guy who would be very, very good in the Browns scheme moving forward.
The other thing is the success some of the rookie running backs have had, even in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds recently. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns take 2 of them. If you're going back to the Kevin Stefanski run scheme, you probably want a 1 and a 1A. Your 1A is probably Jerome Ford. But I think they need a guy that can, like you said, Jerome Ford takes too many 0, 1-yard gains. You got to be 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, especially when you're trying to improve the quarterback play.
Well, the thing that's going to be interesting, first of all, is Nick Chubb. If there's one guy, I know he's on the down end, but if there's one guy that can come back from what he's, his injury, it'd be Nick Chubb. And there's not, I try to keep it to the film and try to keep it professional, but there's not a guy I root for as a football fan more than Nick Chubb. When you see him practice every day, every rep, he's quiet, he's humble, he's a coach's dream. So first and foremost, I hope Nick Chubb gets back or close to where he was. But yes, if they go back to Stefanski and what they do, you saw last couple years the devalue of the running back, and all of a sudden Henry and Saquon Barkley, now the values back up. And nothing helps a quarterback, especially if you're in that transition than a run game. A quarterback who is 2nd 4 and a coordinator who's 2nd 4 is a lot more successful than coordinator and running quarterbacks who are at 2nd and 8. So the Browns have to continuously get guys up front. Now, like I said, I think the offensive line is going to get better because they're going to go back to more gap, more power, more weak side zone. So there's a lot of things that tell me that the Browns, as bad as they were this year, they have some opportunity here to get better quickly.
And we'll have a pretty good idea. And I think they take a running back 3rd or 4th round, and they have a lot of picks in the 6th and 7th round. And we talked about how deep this is. They may take a younger guy that they see as a developmental guy late in the draft. And if you think back to last year, Andrew Berry is always looking at it 2-3 years out. The reason they may not have drafted a running back last year, in addition to what they liked, because they knew this is a deep year for for running backs in the draft.
Well, 2 things. First of all, Andrew Berry gets a lot of, he's taken a lot of heat, but he has some Alex Wright. Some of these guys that he has, drafted, they're going to have some success in that developmental role. I think, that they need running back. They need it's a very deep running back class. They need maybe an edge guy, obviously with the Myles Garrett situation, very deep defensive line class. If they're going to go back to more 12 or 13 personnel, they need more tight ends. It's a very deep tight end class. So there's going to be some really good guys that may have been first and second day guys are going to move down to third day guys just because of the depth. This is a really deep draft at a bunch of the positions the Browns need. And, everybody talks about Myles Garrett. You have to move forward regardless what happens. As a football coach, as an organization, they got to fill holes and they got to get ready to win some football games. And there's some guys in this draft, especially at the positions of need, that can really help this Browns organization.
Another area where the Browns figure to be active in the draft, the wide receiver position. We'll take a look at some film breakdown of draft-eligible wide receivers on this special edition of Sports for CLE. Stay with us.
Maction-packed excitement returns to Rocket Arena. The 2025 Mid-American Conference Basketball Tournament, presented by Credit Union One, returns March 12th through the 15th. Pulses will rise and hearts will race as the men and women of the MAC put it all on the line. Tickets are on sale now at rocketarena.com. MAC Tournament Basketball. Be there!
Welcome back to Sports for CLE special edition, looking at the draft-eligible players in this draft. Browns will have some high picks. Without question, another area that needs to be addressed in the draft is wide receiver. You basically have Jerry Jeudy and then a lot of unproven guys. Lance Reisland joins us to take a film breakdown video analysis of the wide receiver group. We've talked about it. Browns need some playmakers. That would be wide receivers.
Well, I'll tell you what, with obviously the Myles Garrett situation and everything going on, depends on where the Browns are going to draft and what they're going to do. Now, if they stay at 2, I'm not sure anybody but Ted McMillan, the kid out of Arizona, would be worth the number 2 pick. In fact, I don't even know if he'd be worth the number 2 pick. But if they trade down and get more picks, if they are in a true rebuild, there's some receivers that really make sense for what they need. Obviously, they have Jerry Jeudy. They're paying Jerry Jeudy very good money. Jerry Jeudy's their number 1 guy outside. You and I have talked about it for a long time. They still need to find a guy who can do certain things from both inside and outside, and a guy who can get them easy yards in the slot so they don't have to be so perfect on offense to score points.
All right, the first guy we're going to look at, an SEC guy from Missouri, 5'10", 208 pounds, Luther Burden. What do you see when you look at him?
Well, Luther Burden is a guy who had tremendous catch radius. He's really, really good after catch. Now, here's a guy, he's probably one of my favorite breakdowns this year with his ability to do certain things. You're going to see him on a sweep here. He could do the things that they wanted Elijah Moore to do, but this guy's got a little bit more thickness to him. He's 210 pounds, 5'11", really, really, really explosive after catch. He gets from 0 to fast really quick. He's just as quick as he is fast. You see a little return route, his ability to put his foot in the ground, get vertical. He's an easy yards guy. Now, he's a guy that you can move around. He's a guy that can play some tailback. He's got some Deebo Samuel in him. It's hard to be that guy. Deebo is a special talent, but this is a guy who's got the body type to do it. Really, really explosive. Numbers weren't as great this year because the offense wasn't as good and the team wasn't as good, but this is an explosive guy. One of my favorite film breakdowns that I've done this year. Really, really good fit for what the Browns need. They need that number 2 in the slot that could be a number 1 with talent, and this is a guy that can do it.
So Luther Burden from Missouri, again from the SEC. This guy is the next guy's a guy that Browns fans will recognize the name from Ohio State, Amico. 6'1", 205 is what he is listed as. What'd you see with Ibuka?
Well, you're going to see with Ibuka here. So first thing is you're going to see a seam route where he just does a great job of, they're so well coached at Ohio State. He goes with late hands. You're going to see another look at this route from a different angle, and he just gets vertical. He's a 4-3 guy, and he goes with late hands. And what that means is he doesn't show his hands till late. Then you're going to be able to do this easy yard stuff. So this is a little RPO, little play action, and again, really, really fast. Now, Ibuka doesn't get as much credit as he deserved. He's got back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he's playing with the generational talent Jeremiah Smith. But this is a first-round pick, a mid-first-round pick to high first-round pick who has great potential to potentially be a number 1 receiver. He's 6'1", he's 205, like you said. The thing you like about him is that he's really polished. Now, he hasn't played a lot outside, so that would be something he's got to work on. But this is a guy, fundamentally, mechanics, He can run all the routes. He's got a great catch radius. Compared to Burden, who's more of a space guy, this is the receiver that I talk about with the ability to get off the line of scrimmage, at the catch point, and yards after catch. Really, really good, thick body, will be able to stay healthy. I like Amico and Buka. I think he'd be a great fit with Jerry Jeudy.
So Ibuka, again, has played, you mentioned Jeremiah Smith, Marvin Harrison before that. So he's had that alpha wide receiver in front of him pretty much his entire career at Ohio State. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in the NFL. Ohio State wide receivers have done really good in the NFL as an understatement there. Next guy is a guy that we saw plenty in the Big Ten. Tez Johnson also had a pretty good Senior Bowl week as well.
Well, you're going to talk about a guy here. This is a in-space guy, right? So you're going to see him put the foot in the ground. Really, really good. I've used the word sudden and twitchy a lot, which is a fancy word of saying he's just really hard to tackle. As my dad used to say, you would lose a game of tag in a phone booth with Tez Johnson. This is a guy who has stop and start ability like as good as anybody in the draft. You know, he played with Dylan Gabriel, did a great job getting the ball in space. Again, though he's undersized at 5'10", 165, this is the guy who's fast on the track, but he's also football fast. He's also football twitchy, which means he gets from 0 to 100 really, really quick. I love this guy in space. The Senior Bowl pushed him ahead of Restrepo for me because he did it against really good people, really hard to cover. Now, again, he's not a guy who's going to be inside, outside. He's a guy who's going to be a slot. He's a guy who can get the ball in space and make things happen. That's what the Browns need. So the Browns need to find a guy like Tez Johnson, not worried about routes, not worried about technique, fundamentals, a guy who's explosive with the football, who you throw a little route like this to, and he gets vertical and gets you big plays. That's what the Browns need.
So our fourth guy that we're going to look at, and you mentioned him a little bit, Miami's Xavier Restrepo, played with Cam Ward, who the quarterback who's 1 or 2, depending on your boards. What'd you see from Restrepo when you looked at him?
Well, you know, it's funny because he's fast, but he's not overly fast. He's not real big. But here's a smash route he runs, a big route. Obviously then he runs a really savvy little out route here where he eyes up the linebacker, keeps him inside. So again, you're going to see on this route, he's at the point, he's going to run a corner route, just a smash concept, high-low, does a really good job of finding space. And then again, really savvy with his routes. He understands how to run routes against coverage. Now, the thing that will probably push Restrepo down is that he's not blazingly fast. He's not big. But there's some guys who are past the measurements. There's some guys who make plays. And this is the guy, he runs well enough. His routes are incredible. This is a football player. If you think about Cooper Kupp, that's who I think about when I watch this guy. His ability just to get open. And the reason he does that is because he's super smart. Now, I don't think he has the physical skills as the first 3 guys that I have on my board. But I love this guy in the slot. I love this guy for the Browns. This ability to get open. QB friendly. Obviously, the Browns are going to have a new QB probably again. So the Browns need a guy who get open. And that's the best thing I can say about Restrepo. He gets open against everybody all the time. So really good player. Probably slide to the 3rd or 4th round because of the measurables. I think he's a steal.
Yeah, and again, the Browns need some playmakers. To your point, and I know Johnson ran better at the Senior Bowl, but when you watched Restrepo in one-on-one drills, nobody could cover him. The best cornerbacks, I mean, he was breaking ankles and he was making moves on the best cornerbacks.
Well, and that comes down to his ability. He's if you think about Amari Cooper always getting open without elite speed, it's the ability he does everything well. He gets off the line of scrimmage. So if it's zone, he knows how to attack the back shoulder, the blind spot of corners. He's really good in a short area, so that short area burst, so he can get off jams. You can use him in the slot, which means he'll be off the line of scrimmage, which means it's harder to jam him. And the thing you like about him is that he understands. There's nothing worse for a quarterback that a guy just runs through coverage and is just being an athlete. Restrepo is a guy who understands what he's seeing. And at the NFL level, with all those coverages and all that talent, you have to be able to get off the line of scrimmage, and you got to find those holes and those windows. And then if you're going to guard him in man, obviously you put him in the slot. He's a tough match for a safety or an outside linebacker. So I think he's a guy that really fits what the Browns need. The Browns need football players. They have to get past, in my opinion, measurables, and all those things are important. But you need guys, when you watch the film, they make plays. And these 4 guys make plays when you put the film on over and over and over.
So, yeah, and you hear people relative to the Browns. Well, they need a speed guy next to Jerry Jeudy. That line of thinking scares me because the first thing that comes to mind when I think of that is Anthony Schwartz. And, you know, we're not on an obstacle course and we're not running track. It's football. And to your point, I want to see guys that make plays on a football field.
Well, there's some guys this is really deep. So there, skill-wise, there's depth at every position on skill, right? There's great running backs, great tight ends, really good depth at receiver. So, but I'm with you, and it's, you know, being out there at practice every day now. You know, the thing that you see is obviously you got to have some measurables to survive, and I believe that. And I had some of my friends always used to say, like, a BCS body. You got to be big, you got to be fast, you got to be strong, but you also need some production. You know, those weight room warriors are great, and you have to have it to be successful, but you need guys who understand how to play football and play fast on the football field. And playing fast on the football field is being smart and understanding. You cannot be you have to be intelligent to play fast. And that's what the Browns need. They need guys who can play fast on the football field, and are productive. And the measurables are important, don't get me wrong, but I want to see guys make plays when it counts against really good players. And to your point of Restrepo, he did it. You know, he's undersized. He doesn't run well. No one covered him at the Senior Bowl. Those are the best corners and safeties in the country. So these guys that are going to prove they can make plays on Sunday afternoon.
And again, you feel it's kind of a deep draft, so I would imagine there's going to be guys early day 3 that end up being productive in the NFL.
Well, those 3 positions, like I said, receiver, tight end, and running back, there are some outstanding players. I have some guys who, you know, I don't really do the first, second, third. I try to grade it, and just guys who can make plays and guys who can play on Sunday. There's a lot of guys that will be taken on day 3 at those 3 positions that will be very productive as rookies because of their skill set, the offenses they played in, what they can do with the ball after they catch it, the running backs, the receivers. So there's some guys, and, you know, obviously they have Jerry Jeudy. What's their answer at tight end if they're going back to 12 and 13 personnel? What are they doing at run back if Nick Chubb's not what Nick Chubb was? So they have a lot. Obviously, the quarterback position, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, there's a lot of things going on, but you can't sit around. You got to get to work, and you got to figure out what you need and go attack. And that's what the Browns got to be doing now. They got to figure out how do they get Myles back, if that's possible, and then how do they fill these holes that they have, because they are closer than people think. And I will say that I get I'm lucky enough to watch a lot of film. They got a lot of good players. They just need a couple holes that need to be filled.
Still more ahead on this special edition of Sports for CLE, looking at position groups, tight ends. They can be playmakers. We'll take a look at some of them. On the other side of this break, stay with us on Sports for CLE. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. Sports for CLE continues special edition, looking at some draft-eligible positions. Going back to the, quote, Kevin Stefanski offense likely means the tight ends will be more involved. Lance Reisland joins us to take a film breakdown video analysis of the tight ends in this draft. 12-13 personnel means they're going to need some tight ends. We're going to take a look at 3 of the top ones. First one you got will be a familiar name, Tyler Warren from Penn State. What do you see with him?
Well, huge guy, right? So let's take a look here. First, you're going to get, he's an outstanding seam runner at 6'6", 250 pounds. Really good target in the seam. Very position flexible. See him here at the quarterback. Really good athlete. Played quarterback in high school. Extremely good athlete. Then you're going to see him here, a little trick play, but it's just a vertical. He's got great ball skills. He's got great spatial awareness. Again, a guy who had 22 touchdowns in his career at Penn State. He's an outstanding athlete. Played 3 sports in high school. Love this guy's frame. Love this guy's catch radius. He's a guy who can do a lot of things. Again, the Browns need to go back. They have David Njoku, but they're going to need inline help. They're going to need inline, a guy who can put his hand on the ground, a guy who can play in the slot. This is a guy who can do all those things. This is a guy who is outstanding, an outstanding athlete. He can put his hand on the ground. He can block down. He's only going to get better in the run game. But the things that he can do, you can't teach. The things he can't do, you can teach him. Again, extremely position flexible. You can use him in a ton of different things. Inside, outside, he's a complete red zone nightmare for a defense at 6'6". So just a guy. They're going to have to go early if they're going to go on Warren. But if they trade down a little bit, this might be a guy they look at, because this is one of the game changers in the draft. And every year there's 5 to 10 guys. This is one of those guys. This is a really good player.
Yeah, you mentioned 6'6", 257 pounds, and was really good for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Second guy is a local guy. Harold Fannin went to McKinley High School, 6'3", 230 pounds, played at Bowling Green. What do you see with Fannin?
Well, the one thing you hear, so you're going to see some of these this is against Texas A&M, runs a corner route here, and then you're going to see what he does best, run after catch. He's going to put his foot in the ground right there like a receiver. This is an elite athlete at 230 pounds. He's once again a matchup nightmare. Too big and fast for safeties. Too fast for linebackers. You're going to see him here in an RPO from the slot. You're going to see him here on an over route. This will be a levels concept where he's the second layer in the levels. He can do all the things you like as a tight end. Now, he's also, at only 230, he fights pretty well in the run game. But this is the guy, if you think about Harrison Bryant, that guy can do a lot of different things, right? Line up in the backfield, line up outside. I've seen him line up at 1 and run a fade. He's just about done it all. He's got those receiver skills. He played receiver at Camp McKinley, had 0 stars going to BG, and then just blossomed into this star. Now, 2 of his best games were against Penn State and Texas A&M. So even though he's a MAC player, he played really well against really good people. So this is the guy, again, Browns are going to have to get some tight ends if they're going back to what they do. They like to create explosive plays. So if you go 13 personnel, you got 3 tight ends in the game. David Njoku and a guy like Harold Fannin allow you to get in a spread formation against with the defense that's going to have defenders in to stop the run because it's 13 personnel, and that's what Kevin Stefanski likes to do. This guy is an amazing talent after he catches the football.
Yeah, like you said, played wide receiver in high school and would give them another guy that's tough to match up with, much like David Njoku, maybe even a little more athletic than Njoku, if that's kind of athlete he is. Next one's kind of interesting, too. Luke Lachey, 6'5", 245-pounder. And, yes, it is the son of Jim Lachey. So what do you see with Luke Lachey from Iowa?
Well, you're going to see here, again, a very flexible. He's 3 here, so they're going to run a levels concept. Here's the guy in the flat. We've all seen the Browns run that boot action where they've got a guy in the flat. He does a great job. He's 6'5", he's 245, 250 pounds, really good athlete. You're going to see here he's on a corner route. You're going to see his ball skills, his ability to go up and get the football against a smaller safety. Does a really good job of high pointing it and going to get the football. Then you're going to see him outside a receiver run a little hitch here, and then he's going to break a tackle on a smaller corner. So what I like about Lachey is, first of all, I'm biased. I think Iowa tight ends are coached really well. They have really good NFL careers. Wisconsin, Iowa, these offensive linemen, these tight ends that come from these schools that predicate run. They believe in the run game, outside zone, gap schemes. These tight ends seem to come in the NFL more NFL ready sometimes than everybody else. And you can see how position flexible he is. This is a guy that is not as high. You'll probably get this guy late in day 2, maybe even into day 3. This tight end class is absolutely loaded. Did not talk about Cortland Loveland. There's other guys that are so good. The Ferguson kid out of Oregon. There's lots of guys that can play at the NFL. This is one of these guys that's going to fall down, and he's going to fall down in the draft, and he's a really good football player.
Yeah, I agree with you relative to Iowa tight ends. George Kittle comes to mind, and there have been it's a lineage, and there's they take a lot of pride in that. So that's definitely a guy to keep an eye on in this draft is Lachey.
Well, yeah, and he could put his hand. The thing about Iowa tight ends, they can put their hand on the ground and block, and that's something that Fannin will learn. That's something Warren will learn. But Iowa's old school. They're going to put a hat on a hat, and they're going to challenge people in the run game. And then the NFL, especially if you're going to go 13 personnel, what makes that 13 personnel good, or that 12 personnel, is being able to run the football. Because if you can run the football, the defense has to bring in 3 linebackers. Now you have those matchups. They bring in 3 linebackers. Now you split these guys out, and these linebackers have to cover in space. So these athletic tight ends give Kevin Stefanski incredible formation flexibility and create matchups in his favor, especially with the tight end. So this Lachey, Fannin, Warren, there's others, Cortland Loveland, the kid out of Michigan. There's lots of guys who can do that in this draft. I think these 3 would be really good fit in Stefanski's offense.
One more timeout on this special edition of Sports for CLE. Then we turn our attention to one of the hottest teams in all of basketball, the Cavaliers. Sam Amico from Hoopswire.com straight ahead. Stay with us. Full Court Maction is a half-hour devoted exclusively to men's and women's basketball from across the Mid-American Conference. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Bacon. Join me at 6:30 Tuesday nights, and we'll meet the coaches and players from the Mid-American Conference who are making an impact in basketball. Full Court Maction will spotlight the top plays and performances from all across the Mid-American Conference with some historical Maction as well. Catch Full Court Maction Tuesday nights at 6:30 on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, continue to be the top seed in the Eastern Conference. Stephen A. Smith, ESPN's First Take, impressed by what he has seen from the Cavs.
They have athletes. They have size. You acquired DeAndre Hunter from Atlanta. You have a wing defender who can put up 18 and 19 a game, who's been shooting better than 50% from threes since he arrived in Cleveland from Atlanta. And oh, by the way, he arrived from Atlanta to Cleveland, Molly, 12 games ago. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 12 and 0. They haven't lost a game with Hunter in the lineup. They have everything. And Boston, of course, Boston should still be the favorite. But a Boston fully loaded should be the favorite. You better have Porzingis. You better have Drew Holiday. You better have Derek White with Tatum and Brown. You better have them. Because if you don't, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to the finals.
This was an important game for Milwaukee. Milwaukee has struggled against all the top teams in the East this year. It was a back-to-back for them, but still, they played their guys.
0-8 against the top 3 teams in the conference.
They were 0-3 against the Cavs.
And now 0-9.
Darius Garland did not play well in this game. Donovan Mitchell did not shoot. He played well, but didn't shoot well. The two of them, 2 of 15 on threes.
Right.
Still go into Milwaukee and win. That's the thing about
convincingly.
That's the thing about this Cavs team. Like this 14-game win streak, they've had some games where they just haven't played that well. They've gone down to the wire against some below-average teams, but they win every game. They figure out a way to win every game.
Let's welcome in Sam Amico from Hoopswire.com, Full Court Cleveland as well. And Sam, championship teams do that. I mean, that's probably the biggest compliment that you can pay a team. They win when they don't play their best.
Yeah, that's just it. And you know, a lot of seasons, or I guess a lot of games last season would be these games we've seen where they haven't played well this year and still won. They would lose those games last year, you know, and I think that's part of that is just the organic growth and experience of the players. Part of that's the system that they're using under Kenny Atkinson and their depth. Really, I don't know that we've ever seen a Cavs team this deep. You know, even for people who have been around to see them their whole 54 years of existence, have probably not seen a Cavs team this deep. So as those guys said against Milwaukee, the Cavs, you know, their all-star backcourt of Mitchell and Garland didn't shoot the ball well. And here you had Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro coming through. Sam Merrill came through. And that's just kind of been the story of their season, is not only do they have great talent in the core 4, but they have great depth. And I think that that's been, you know, the difference between Cavs teams of recent seasons and this year.
So in the playoffs, everybody talks about rotations shrink, fewer guys play. Is depth still important because you look at series and you look at matchups?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Milwaukee game, for instance, or even the game in Boston, their bench scoring is just crushing opponents. And, you could throw in the Orlandos and the Brooklyns and all those other teams that either aren't going to the playoffs or are kind of on the brink of the playoffs, and you're expected for your bench to outscore them. But when you're playing these teams that you're going to face presumably later in the playoffs, the Bostons and the Milwaukees of the world, their benches just don't stack up with the Cavs. And maybe, all else being equal, the starters and, in the case of Boston, you have Tatum and Brown, and the Cavs, you have, Mobley and Mitchell and Garland. So, all those things even each other out. It's going to come down to your role players and your bench in those kind of series. So that's why you think, the Cavs can go further than they did last season. And they can, as they said there, Stephen A. and Brian Windhorst said, you think they could get to the finals.
Is DeAndre Hunter maybe even a better? Everybody thought he was a really good fit. To be as seamless as it has been from the beginning, it can that even go to another level?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's still, believe it or not, getting, comfortable in his role, comfortable more than anything with his teammates. He really, when he kind of hit the ground running when he came to, Cleveland after that trade. And Kenny Atkinson said, usually it takes guys a few weeks to get acclimated to our system, what we're looking for, as well as the other personalities on the team. But Hunter picked everything up quickly. And, I think that they think this guy is the 3-and-D guy that we were hoping to get, 6th man of the year running and remains that way today coming off the bench in Cleveland. But yeah, I think that he still can get more comfortable in this offense. And, he's already been everything they could ask for and more. But yeah, I think that he could take it to another level offensively as he gets more comfortable just being around the other guys and playing with the other guys.
So I know you wrote an article for Hoopswar about Donovan Mitchell and his shooting efficiency. What have you seen? Take us through that article.
Yeah, it's funny that came out the same day that he shot very poorly against the Bucks. But
Jinx!
Right. I just think that more than anything, it's been shot quality with the Cavaliers. Kenny Atkinson has stressed that. That's a stat they keep. And they want guys to shoot the ball in places where they're comfortable and not force anything, but always feel comfortable to take a shot. Don't feel like, I've shot 3 times in a row down the court, I should pass it up this time. If you're open, take that shot. And it's really benefited Donovan Mitchell in terms of shooting efficiency. His percentages are higher, his 3-point percentages are higher. And I think part of that, too, is that he can have more trust in his teammates. Look, if I miss this shot, which I'm sure he's not thinking, but subconsciously, maybe you're thinking, if I miss this shot, we've got like 8 other guys that are going to come in and have big scoring nights. And the Cavs proved that against the Bucks, as well as multiple other games this season, where Donovan Mitchell's been off. And guess what? They still won the game. And Milwaukee, up 18 with 4.5 minutes left in Milwaukee against a team that's really kind of finding its stride now and getting ready for the playoffs. For the Cavs to go in there and do that when Donovan Mitchell was, 4 of 15 from the field, I think that really helps in terms of your confidence shooting the basketball. It's a difference between taking a free throw when you're up 1 point with 4 seconds to go, or when you're up 20 points with 4 seconds to go. You're up 20 with 4 seconds to go. You don't really even think about it. It's like, it doesn't really matter if I make it or miss it. So I think there's a lot of that probably going on with Donovan Mitchell, in that his confidence is just sky high because he knows the guys around him can pick up any slack.
Another article you wrote for Hoopswire, Jared Allen, changing role and still, he's upbeat.
Yeah, well, that's just Jared Allen for you, and Kenny Atkinson will tell you that right away. And it's not a huge change for Jared Allen, but there is a noticeable change in that a lot of games he's sitting out the fourth quarter, or if not the entire fourth quarter, then at crunch time. And they'll have a smaller lineup in there with DeAndre Hunter at power forward, Evan Mobley at center, and maybe Max Strus at small forward or something along those lines. So there's been a lot of games that we've seen. Look, one game after Jared Allen went nuts in Chicago last week or 12 days ago or whatever, went crazy. And then, the next game, a home game against Miami, he didn't play in the fourth quarter or barely played in the fourth quarter. And, that's a big ask. Kenny Atkinson has admitted that. He's like, a lot of players, that's not going to sit well with them. They're used to playing at crunch time. But he said, and Jared Allen came out and said, look, I'm not going to doubt a coach when we've had the kind of season we've had. And he said, I'm starting, I'm making a major contribution. There's no reason to feel, yeah, you always want to be out there, but there's no reason to get upset when you're not, because we're doing what's best for the moment. And we've done that all year. And he's had a great attitude about it. Anybody knows Jared Allen is not surprised that he's had that great attitude, because it's just something he's displayed since the moment he arrived in Cleveland.
Yeah, and winning cures a lot of things. Everything seems a little bit better when you're winning. Sam Amico, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Sam.
All right, Dave, thanks so much for having me, and we will chat at you soon.
I appreciate it. Sam Amico, make sure you check him out, hoopswire.com. Also, co-host of Full Court Cleveland. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.